Full meeting started. It's Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. We have 5 items on the agenda. Actually, we have 6.
Huh?
But anyway,
Oh,
yeah, there's 2 twos. I guess we'll go ahead and start with one of the 2 community survey items. So I put those in committee of the whole at the most recent council meeting. And the first topic we have, well, actually, we'll just jump down to early results and follow up. So as you can see from here, we do have, just over 600 surveys that have been 603 have been completed so far, and of those, almost 73% have stated that they live in Norwood. There are a handful, I'm not going to scroll through all of that. I think there's like 30, maybe 30 that have requested to speak to a member of council. They did not specify a member of council. That's one of the things that we'll have for discussion on this topic. That would be the follow-up. So identifying kind of based on some of the topics that they stated they would like to discuss with a member of council, determining on where exactly to forward that information. Some provided email address, some provided a phone number, and I think there were a few who provided nothing. They just wanted to make a statement in that little comment field. And there are some who provided both email and phone number. So should be no issue contacting those who are requesting to talk about whatever their topics were with members of council or a member of council. So thoughts on that as far as, I guess, the follow-up piece. Do we want to have, put it in phases as opposed to waiting until the survey is closed? Do we want to reach out to people early?
I'd like to at least address the ones that we have now, and we could, I would think, divvy them up by appropriateness, either by committee or, I know one person specifically was asking about the DEI advisory board. So I went ahead and took that and responded to her.
Are we having some way of tracking who we've reached out to and who we have not? Because as we get more, I want to make sure we don't double up on people.
Right, well, we'll
as of-
probably have to put that into a spreadsheet. I mean, we can export the data from.
And as of now, only Joe and I have access to the document, so, and I told him I was reaching out to her.
Yeah, having a spreadsheet where we can like on Google Drive or what have you, where we can update like, hey, input note, like attempted to contact 2/6, no answer or whatever. So that would be good. And then we can start now if there might be some that are pretty easy to address, and there might be some where it might be good just to like reach out and say, hey, we saw, just so they know that we are looking at it and not just kind of.
And I mean, it could be beneficial if there's like, if we get 50 people who all want to talk about the same thing, maybe that's something that we like schedule a town hall for and let they know we're doing. That way, just for ease of communication, we're not having the same conversation 100 times, and that way we make sure that people are receiving the same information. There's consistency.
I'm typing I'm working on the report. I'm trying to.
Do we want to go ahead and take a look at those folks now and it was like 25, right, Joe? I didn't organize
remember exactly
anything.
how many.
Did most of them put what they want to talk about, or would it be good to call people who did it?
It was a mixed bag.
Okay.
Right.
So would it be beneficial to have someone, we could do like a preliminary call maybe?
Probably.
And just tell them, like, we'll figure out the answers and get back to them if we don't have them at the time. And
I also think for the sake of, I don't know that we want to dive too much into it at this meeting in any way that's going to like show people's personal information.
Correct. I-
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I have not scrolled down to all of that, because there are also some who utilized language that I probably would not want to air.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Can't imagine.
Creative writing.
Creative writing.
Yes.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think if we
Yeah, divide and conquer.
divide and conquer, just get it on an Excel sheet and get it up there, and
Yep.
we can like maybe have
A subject column.
yeah, a
what they wanna
subject
talk
like
about.
general. It can be like general questions or something specific, and then all of us can go in and kind of claim people,
Yeah.
and that way. If, also, that's nice because then if you actually don't know something, you have a
We can send them to
send it
someone.
to someone else. Like, and this is for Noah, for instance. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I'm glad that we've gotten so many responses so far. I know that there, you mentioned, Susan, about like maybe getting multiple responses from the same IP address. Is there any way to like screen that out if someone is just like spamming?
I mean, there's one that I did find that an individual filled it out 5 or 6 times within a 2-hour window. The same IP address, every number was the same. They wanted to be creative and selected each option that they live here, that they work here, they live and work here. They were,
Interesting.
and they had some very colorful language in the comments that were provided. Nothing that was positive.
Huh, weird.
And sort of my thought, because we did kind of, we thought that that might be the possibility. And one of the thoughts was to only allow a couple IP addresses per address. But basically my thought is if we're doing, right now we've got over 600.
And you only found
If
one.
we get even more, that kind of thing is just going to get filtered out. And for the off chance that it was, a small group of people sitting in the same room, sharing the same laptop and just happen to have different backgrounds and pass the same laptop, your opinion matters too. So I mean, we'll collect the data, and I think again, if there's enough stuff that anything that is on either wing will just sort of
Right.
fluff off.
And there will be some that I'm sure will end up deleting because they were not complete. Like they went in, they clicked the link, they scanned the code, they went in and they started scrolling, but they never submitted any information. It still has it as a survey that was accessed. So some of those where there's no data whatsoever to pull from them, those we can, I would say safely.
Disregard.
Yeah.
Yep.
One thing with distribution, I didn't know if, I think we had talked briefly about trying to mail it out to people. Is that still something that we had wanted to try to do, perhaps?
I don't think mailing is going to be very cost effective because
fair.
it's just so ridiculously expensive. One of the things that I was going to suggest was not only we take a approach of some of the places we traditionally broadcast, and I pulled that up for some like the MLK events. We could have it emailed to the public schools, and they could print it and put it in the mail in the
Like the take home
backpacks.
bags.
Yeah, thank you. I have a Google Doc of all the Norwood churches that I've found who have phone numbers through Google searches, so we could email it to all of the churches. And then we've got some of the businesses. We could send it out. Joe was talking about sending it out to the chamber. The chamber does have a minority of Norwood businesses are not members of the chamber. So I think it would be appropriate to try to hit some of the bigger ones as well. I also want to recommend that we put signs in the park, and we can get like those yard signs, like political yard signs. We could get maybe 8 and put one in each park. So that was another thought that I had.
That's a great idea, especially near the fields.
Yeah, because there are going to be a lot of people, especially during soccer time. You're coming here soon. Yeah, and I mean, those signs are pretty cheap. You can just get blank ones or just get them printed up for pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, it's about, that was one of the things I was pricing out. It looks like we could get it for, it's gotta be $6 a piece, is that right? Yeah. And if we were to do something like that, let's say that costs, say, $30. Is that something that we could take out of the council budget? Or is that something that we would pay for?
I would have to look to see. I'm sure there's a key that we could
I know we have something
use that
for
for.
printing, etc.
We would just
I
have to
don't
go
think
through
we
the
can.
whole PO process and getting a quote, sending it on.
So it might just be worth just paying for it.
I mean, it would definitely be something that we would want to, not something that we're going to be able to turn around in 2 days.
Right.
So,
But we're thinking about did we ever decide a final date for when we want to close it? It was several months, but
I believe we had like May, June timeframe.
Yeah, that was what I recall
Noted.
as well.
yeah. So it was a frame, we just sort of an ish.
I think that gives time for like spring sports to start up.
Yep.
People getting out in the parks and being outside again. 'Cause right now, people are mostly staying inside, except for yesterday, which is wonderful.
Maybe we could put one at,
Lawson
on
Way.
Watson Way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because my thoughts with some of these is we could use a different QR code for the ones that we put in parks, ones that we send to the chamber, so we have an idea of where they're actually coming from. Like what,
where people are scanning them.
yes, where are they accessing the survey? As opposed to the initial one that kind of came from council and social media. Getting an idea, did we get, whatever, we sent it out through the schools and 10% of the total completed surveys actually came from that QR code or whatever the number was through, we'll say Wasson Way. How many
People saw it at parks versus like in a business versus
correct
just finding it online or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
CarX, Midas, Mikings, whatever. Kroger, they have the thing out in the front. their little
Corkboard?
Yep.
I'm very familiar with the community cork boards because of our DEI shenanigans.
Or even, like Watman, Mound.
Just the best.
The mound,
I know where the cork boards are.
they have, spots in the bathroom, in the back of the stalls. So there's Northwood Cidery.
Anywhere where there's like, excuse me, stalls are usually, whether they have the sign holders or not, most bars are welcome to put signage on.
The case outside of the door of City Hall. I mean, they should still
Correct.
be able to scan through that.
Oh, and at the treasurer's office as people come to do their taxes. Although we may get some
They may be busy.
Unhappy people.
unhappy, maybe it's not
Yeah.
not the right frame
They
of
may
mind.
be both busy and upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the rec, the community center,
Yep.
Library.
the police
We already
station,
mentioned
the library.
So we're gonna have a cork board QR code / business. And then parks and then
Just looking stuff up.
Yeah.
there.
That would be the plan.
Great.
And with, of course, a different themed flyer.
Maybe in that same Google Doc or wherever we choose to do our spreadsheet, we have a second spreadsheet with like host businesses. And if you've dropped one off, you can tag it.
That would be helpful.
That way we're not hitting places twice.
Right.
Wherever has community boards and
Factory 52 has stuff in the stalls too, right?
Yeah.
I'm imagining that. Maybe they could let us.
I imagine they would have a community board somewhere for
I
residents.
don't think they,
I would think for residents, like somewhere in a,
I
I
don't
don't
know
know
if
if
they
they've got like.
they
a
don't
clubhouse or
gather all,
something
but,
Maybe in the leasing office.
Or something, yeah.
somewhere.
We can ask.
They've got like a common space.
I was actually a little surprised when I was there looking for a community board and there wasn't one.
Burgess has a community board, and
Sorry.
then
Just trying to look at another.
yeah, so maybe we do a spreadsheet and everyone
Yeah,
can
where we
put
hit
places
places.
in, and then
Yep.
take responsibility. Will you send that graphic via email?
Well, I have to create them with the new
He has to make
QR codes.
Oh, okay.
Because the one we have out there now is kind of the,
Well, we could just replace it on the flyer, right? Like, we don't necessarily have to do different flyers for each thing. Maybe
Correct.
the sign, yeah.
right.
So,
Yeah, or, I mean, we can do the same one, just change the QR code and note somewhere on the bottom so we actually
know
know
which
which
ones they
one
are.
it was. Instead of, well,
I could just see that, like us putting all the park ones on cork boards. Cork boards and parks. Got 'em. Got 'em.
all right. So, let's see, we kind of dove into distribution. Anything else under early results or follow-up?
I think turnout's been really great.
Yeah, 600.
It's been quiet
Well, I
lately.
think we got that initial push. and
Yeah.
Until we really start like community outreach efforts and.
That's good just from social media.
Yeah.
It's really just from Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so excited to see how many we can get.
Great.
Oops, that's not the one I wanted.
Joe, what was our initial goal? In order to have like a good sample size, we had a number.
Do we have like, what, 1,300?
It was somewhere between 1,000
think.
and 2,000.
Yes,
So,
I
mean,
recall the 2,000 being like the upper bound.
If our goal was
Yeah.
1,300, then
We're
chipping away.
well,
What's
but
the-
also keep in
yeah.
mind that there's a decent percentage of these that are not, they're blank.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't have enough data to be relevant to analysis.
And what's also more complicated, and yeah, for a population of 20,000, a good sample size would be about 1,000. But we're also going to be asking for people who aren't residents.
Right.
So,
Right. So it's going to be a little
But,
more.
yeah.
But also keep in mind it's not it's not 100% of all age groups. Like we're not, you know, those
Right.
that are on
These are people who are active on social media.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I would
And
assume
Facebook
that we're not
necessarily.
looking for the 5 or the 8-year-old to go out and complete a survey. So we would remove them kind of from that.
yeah, so
That
that
raw
population
number.
is not, it's, if you're
Correct.
doing 18 and over, that population dips down to more like 15,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that teenagers aren't important, but
Correct.
and
Yeah.
I do
We have to have a
think
cutoff.
you gotta kind of,
a thing for us to decide is how incomplete is incomplete. I think the vast majority of them are people who opened and answered 1 or 2 questions. Do we want to have a standard that we decide now if they haven't answered more than, you know, if they haven't answered this many? Because there's some who they do a whole lot and then they're just sort of peter out. And I'd like to collect that data, but the person who just does, I live in Norwood and then 2 more and then is done, that doesn't feel like it's worthwhile data for us.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind there is to see if at any point they were timed out and they submitted another one. So we would put it in order by IP address and see by IP address, is there one that's complete versus incomplete?
Ooh.
I was getting nerdy.
Yeah,
looking at stuff.
that's really cool.
Another way you report that is to say, when we show the data, certain questions had a certain amount of respondents. And so, you can say that this question only had, 500, where this question had 1,000.
I don't think it invalidates the answers to the questions that are answered if they don't finish the survey, but I think it's important to keep in mind that they won't all have the same amount of responses.
They won't.
Correct. It also can complicate it in the sense of looking at it by some of the demographical data. If they didn't bother to fill out any of the demographics, those kind of get,
I'm sure this is like statistics 101, but
I mean, it's been a hot minute.
I managed to skip stats in college.
I didn't take that
I did like
class,
quantitative
so-
methods, but it was something else. It was not stats.
I didn't mind research. I'm master's research.
That was very hard. I was not doing that. I hate math.
What does our timeline want to be for following up with the folks who have already?
well, let's see. It's been live a month, right? Mm-hmm. So,
Would it be appropriate to, would we have the capacity to send an email just saying, hey, we're in receipt of your email, we will be responding to you in greater, or a council member will be reaching out to you within 30 days,
I would just say like as soon as possible.
as soon as possible, shortly?
Sure. Yeah.
Soonish?
As soon as.
Do we have the capacity? I have a hard time, and I think you are more familiar with the Survey Monkey than I am. I'm having a hard time pulling just that out. Like, I've got to keep going around. So for me to do that would be hard.
I guess
yeah, I mean, you can export the data into a spreadsheet and then sort it by where the comments are. All the way at the end, I believe it should be to the right of the spreadsheet.
do you have an estimate on when we could get, because if we can get the spreadsheet in like a week, I don't know if the emails are necessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Is this something that we could have two people go offline and work on and get back to us instead of doing the whole thing right now?
oh, we wouldn't do the whole thing right now.
No, like, instead of trying to like do the whole task right now in the meeting, if we could give a couple people an assignment and say, bring this back to us or prep this
Right.
document for us.
If we could get the spreadsheet by the end of the week, I feel like,
Then we wouldn't need to reach out in the meantime.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if we do like
That's
a
doable.
communal document, then we could just all check off when we reach out to people.
Yeah. So,
Will someone check with, maybe this is a you question, will you check with Keith about just, I want to make sure it's okay that we all have a shared document.
I would think it would be okay as long as we're not all in it at the same time. We're not like
It's
messaging,
not
but we
city
should know
business. We're not voting on it.
Correct.
We're not.
That's true.
It's not an ordinance. It's nothing that,
Yeah, it's
Yes.
nothing that we are voting on or having.
Yeah.
It's like when we share a spreadsheet to do yard sign stuff,
Yeah,
for instance.
I think it would be responsible to report out our findings in a
yeah,
way that doesn't disclose personal identification in this
oh, yeah.
meeting.
yeah.
agree.
I would agree.
Or generalize our conversations in some kind of, of the 30 conversations, 10 of them were about roads, 10 of them were about
Yeah, we could do that.
this.
Okay.
Because I would say if we can all just like get the spreadsheet and do an initial contact, then we wouldn't need to do like a generic email to everybody.
I think some are going to be interesting to figure out who is to respond.
Yeah. Well, so with those, some of it could be sending an email and saying based on the information, based on the topics that you have discussed.
Would it be, there's what, 30 of them, I believe? Could we, without, because I can see the comment, and the comment doesn't necessarily indicate who it is. And this, I have no idea who here would take it. So maybe can we go through it and use our time to say this is who gets what?
You mean not
Or-
now?
Right now.
I don't know that that would be the best use of our time.
Right.
Right.
today.
I
also
just
feel
don't- sorry.
confident in if one or two people want to take that task on and go through and just assign them. And then if
Yeah.
you get assigned something and you're like, I don't feel qualified or capable of handling this, can I tap somebody in to assist?
Okay.
I think that's,
Because
Yeah.
a couple of these are simply not city council things, they're more city administration.
Correct.
And so maybe the thing is, this is not a city council thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, indirectly, what we could do with that one is say, thank you for, whatever, submitting your concerns. Although this is not something that city council
I mean, we could.
can address, we have forwarded that information
Yeah.
on to city administration.
Yeah.
And then let them know, here's the contact information for the individuals who have requested
good.
to speak with someone with the city on these topics. All right, anything else on community survey stuff? So we've hit the distribution, the early results, and the follow-up.
I will say, I will volunteer to put together that spreadsheet. If you want to send me whatever it takes, I'll put up a Google Sheets and then share it with us and have some columns for who followed up. And then if somebody wants to work on it, we can assign together or.
All right.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, so new council orientation.
I have some thoughts. My plan is now that we've got, I feel like the survey was more time sensitive and kind of begged for more immediate attention. And now that that is live and out there, I would like to buckle down and focus on this for myself personally. That's not like requesting that everybody does. So my plan is to come to next committee of the whole with an outline. And I know we've talked about this a bit in the past, but I think if there are any standout topics that you feel like you initially struggled with or didn't have much clarity on, or like roadblocks that you came up against, if you can shoot those to me in an email in the next week or two, I can be sure to include them. And just a general layout, and then I think it might be smartest to like task individuals with kind of fleshing out individual categories. Like things that some people are really strong at. They can kind of spell out what the steps look like for those, or we can get with Keith on like the steps where you find your form for an ordinance request and what information needs to be included and who that gets sent to and what that timeline usually looks like. What are our thoughts on that?
I think that sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Great. So that'll be my plan. I'll come to the next committee of the whole and I'll have them printed out for everybody so we can all kind of review them. If I get them together with enough time, I'll email them in advance.
All right.
It might be good to email Keith as well,
Yeah.
because I know he has stuff he would like us to do better initially.
Yes.
When we started.
Yes.
I'm sure he has questions that he's answered 6,000 times that he would like to.
Oh, I know he
have
does.
answer 6,000 more. Though he has been very patient when answering all of those questions to me.
I know where all the light switches are now.
Yes, that's important. But does anyone know the code to the printer?
Just show it in this room.
How many people know the code to our council?
That also came with clerk, and I just kind of carried it over.
I think it's only, I just told Jeff tonight.
I don't
Do you
know.
know the password to the council office?
No.
We're on the record.
Yeah,
And
say
what I
that
will
loud for all
say
to
is-
hear.
I was just gonna say,
What I-
only two of us.
Well, what I will say is we aren't going to be putting passcodes in this orientation, but I will be, if you have a list of things you will
You should
need
ask
passcode
for.
for.
Or
yeah, you need to go
the contact
who
person
go
to
through
get that
collect
code,
that information.
Yes.
or the key fobs, or
And maybe
the
this will
email
help as we
address.
develop an intro packet that includes all of that information.
I got that when I was, my first term, I thought I got a packet and it had my like fob and stuff in it. Did we not? Am I imagining that?
I had to hunt down a fob.
I definitely
don't
have
have
a
a
phone.
phone.
I feel like the fob appeared at my home. I could be wrong. I just know it.
I had to hunt mine down. I had to.
Because I think I was surprised to be getting a packet or something. And
Well, we'll revisit that.
yeah, I could be
Back
wrong.
to the packets.
It might be good to ask the mayor, because I don't know who gave me the packet. I feel like I got a packet.
You
Now I feel
probably did.
crazy.
For the January 1st meeting, there would have been a packet because you
Oh,
would not
maybe
have
that's
had a
when I got
city
the
email
fob.
address yet.
Yeah. Maybe that's when the fob was put
Probably.
in my possession.
And that was hand delivered.
Yeah.
I started early. I started in December,
did,
so
yeah.
I'm all,
You never got
So she
the-
doesn't count.
You never
Yeah,
got the
I was
full new member.
appointed.
Yeah.
before I was elected.
Same.
Did you two have a meeting with, or you three have a meeting with Vic, like some kind of first steps to get on board?
Just the
No.
orientation, which I think he started the first time.
Yeah.
We were all on.
Okay, we said we went through that.
Yeah.
And that was,
The one at the police academy?
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the most helpful because it was the only thing that was given to us to help us get onboarded.
Yes. Which I think that's a great thing, actually, that was started, because
Yeah,
I can't imagine how much scarier it would have been without an orientation.
Yeah.
All right. Master plan for the city. So I kept that on here, but of course, the
Survey.
survey is kind of
step one.
helping to guide where we are with that master plan. So I don't know if there's any further discussion on there based on one of the things Mr. Skelly shared at an earlier committee of the whole meeting was that realistically, the master plan for the city is not something that will probably be put in place by this council, given the length of time that it will take not only to analyze the data from the survey, but also to put together all the other aspects of that plan. Other discussion on the master plan. And that's just kind of pending survey data. All right, standard operating procedures for council.
I don't have any questions at this time. That seems like it ties into new council orientation really well, but.
Yeah, I think, the basics of Robert's rules is great to include for
Yes.
that. In addition to like, how do we get started, just like what the normal process is with every step of what we approve, don't approve, et cetera.
The lifeline of an ordinance.
Yeah.
I'm just a bill.
Yeah, we need a Schoolhouse Rock ordinance song.
I'd like to nominate Emily to produce that video.
Yes.
This is my entire life building up to this moment.
I do have one question on that topic.
All right,
Why is it that other cities don't read 3 readings at the exact same time and we do? So like whenever we say, let's have all 3 readings, other cities don't read it aloud 3 times.
but they have the motion to have all 3 readings?
They do everything we do, but whenever they read the title, they own, and like, for instance, in Wyoming. I asked somebody else who's worked on other councils and they're like, oh, we don't do that. That,
Is it because we're statutory?
That's what I was gonna assume.
I mean, right, Wyoming's not a statutory city.
Right.
But it makes no sense why we read it 3 times.
I almost think it makes less sense to say, let's read it 3 times and then read it once.
Right,
I'm doing
right.
it.
I mean,
now.
we're literally, because
I think there's a legal obligation to read it 3 times.
That's
Correct.
There's not.
that is no different than when we have public hearings and I have to say 3 times, is
Yeah.
there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against?
That's like statutorily required.
We're
right?
providing that, yes, we're,
Full
Yeah.
So where do I go to figure out why some cities are allowed to do it and some cities
I
aren't?
would start with the law department.
Okay.
And I'll use the example, let's say that, as we've done with some ordinances, we do have 1 reading per meeting.
That seems totally logical to me.
I mean, we have to read, the caption of that ordinance or resolution has to be read 3 times prior to the motion to pass, whether it is over 3 separate meetings, or if we declare the emergency
Suspend.
and, Yes, suspend the rules
I am the
to
candidate.
have all 3 readings. It is, we're still having those 3 readings. It still has to be read 3 times.
So why is it that some cities don't do that?
I'm,
Maybe it's their
that
charter.
city's, that city's governing body, like
Yeah.
that city's governing laws.
So why can't we? Because that would save.
Statutory cities don't have as much flexibility with what we
correct,
can change.
because we follow Ohio Revised
Okay.
Code. And
So if I find out that it's not a charter statutory thing, would you guys be in favor of saving a bunch of time during meetings?
Oh, yeah, I'm not opposed.
I'll be surprised if we can. That would be a pleasant surprise.
That would be a lovely surprise.
I'm really curious as to why
Yeah.
some can and some don't.
I feel in my experience, almost anything I find odd that we do is because we're a statutory city.
Although I've also been surprised at other council meetings, how very different they all feel to me.
Yeah.
And I just think that's kind of interesting. The vibe is, like St. Bernard, frankly, has a very, much more theatrical council chambers. I've never been to Wyoming's. That'd
I've
be
got
a
a friend
cool
that's on
thing.
Wyoming's.
We could do like
A tour.
a field trip and go
love field
to different
trips.
council meetings.
Can I tell you something that Wyoming's doing that's really cool?
Yeah.
But not it. I'm not doing it.
Also
They
not
have
it.
a high school student council thing where they've got high school students that are volunteering to sit on each committee. And
I
they're being
love that
part of the
idea.
process.
So when I was in high school, I served the YMCA of City of Cincinnati. I don't know if they still do it, but many years ago when I was in high school, the YMCA has a program called Youth in City Government, and you run for office if you choose to. It's a body of like a few hundred students. They pull from every CPS school. You have to be nominated by a government teacher. So my school, I think, sent 6 kids. So it's a few hundred kids, and you spend a week, instead of going to school for a week, you spend a week learning about municipal government and how things work. And then if you want to run, you can run for a year-long term of being a youth and city government council member. So I ran and was elected. You get assigned a Cincinnati council member who you shadow. And it was very cool. And a few of the people who I served with now work like behind the scenes in government, which is cool. I don't know that they still do it. I feel like I haven't heard of it in a long time, but it was a very cool program.
I did send an email to the AP history teacher. Because I really think that would be, even just to invite them to come to a council meeting or have lunch with a council member or, because I think we need to have more young people actively civically engaged.
We have a Xavier class coming next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good idea, Jeff.
Yeah, it's a really cool program. It sounds like a lot of work to pull it off, but
Yeah.
but it's a way to get future council members, I'm sure.
Worked for me.
This is a trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also be on my own time, as I have time. I do want to like try to go to like Silverton, Wyoming, Deer Park, and just kind of see how their councils run, because it may like spark something like, why are we doing 3 readings? Like, oh, why are they doing it this way? It may just be that they're statutory versus charter, but maybe there's something else that seems to work well for them.
I've just learned there's no limit to, well, we've always done it this way.
Yep.
Yes.
That is true. And I also think it would be nice to just say hi to the other elected officials. Solidarity. That's not, I'm not like saying anyone else has to do that. I just thought that would be something I would like to do in my copious spare time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have so much of it.
No, I don't, yeah. I have nothing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm searching Ohio Revised Code.
I know, I'm looking at it too.
I'm trying to figure that out too.
I'm in section 731.17.
I will be so
Yep.
sad if I'm proven wrong.
Or you're going to get them in trouble.
I don't think you're going to be, I don't think there's a right or wrong here, Jeff.
Yeah.
I think it's just asking why, which is your job. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think no matter what the answer is, this is just you doing your job.
The law always gets in the way.
It's
know?
just, when I see those
That
like
has to be
really
legal
long
system.
captions,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, oh man,
It's gonna be.
here we go.
Are you worried
As,
about?
as someone who has had to read very long captions
Jeff's worried
before,
about being appointed
3
pro
times.
temp. This is really just him worried about that.
I'm also like thinking, oh, never mind. I don't have a good answer, but just be nice to like just know if there's anything else we can do to make things better,
More efficient.
more efficient.
Have you heard of a consensus agenda?
Yes, I've heard of consensus agenda.
So-
I love that.
You can have items on your agenda where if we all pre-agree somehow, which I don't know how this works because
That seems crazy.
Yeah.
it seems illegal.
We're not allowed to talk about it.
Right. But if there are certain ordinances that we can put together on the agenda, we can say we would like to have all 3 readings of items A through Z, and that could be one fell swoop passed. But maybe that's a charter city as well, and I don't know how that works. I feel like
Yeah.
that's too slippery of a slope.
I wonder if you can charter yourself out of sunshine laws.
And it also, part of me feels like sometimes things happen so fast that it's like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know that one was in that, and maybe I had, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just,
Right. I've been trying to think about what would be the right options for that. Things like let the safety service director enter an agreement with, some of those things are like so minute business of
and
the
kind
city.
of work.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I think that though, and then someone is here to ask questions about it. So
And yeah.
I know. So then, when do you determine? Do you
Right, how do
determine
you
it before
determine?
council, or like see if people are here to talk about something that you wanted to do a consensus vote on? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess the only way it would work is if we showed up with this thing and we all just
Yeah.
agreed, okay, we're good with this,
Right.
This section. Otherwise, you'd have to
Right.
pull each one out.
So this says, Joe, I'm in section 705.15. This says no ordinance unless it is declared an emergency measure shall be passed until it has been read on 3 separate days, the first and second reading. Well, but we do read it by title only. Never mind.
Correct.
For me. And only if such measure is printed and a copy thereof placed on the desk of each member, the third reading may be by title only. Spending 3/4 taken by using days on each ordinance. Huh. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I think Ohio Revised Code is going to cover that you don't have to read it in its entirety, but the title or the caption only
3 times.
has to be read 3 times.
I feel like it's maybe also just like a legal thing, like when you have to go in the executive session, you have to say the exact code that you need, even
Right.
though
Correct.
you should.
And it's probably better to cover our bases on that one. On
Yeah,
the
for that,
ordinances.
for that especially with the executive session.
In ordinances,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like you only read it once. How can you?
I bet Keith's going to be like, we need to call the State House.
Does the post office have a bulletin board?
Yeah.
So Wyoming is a charter city. And this does say, I'm in the, what document am I in? I'm in some code from the Attorney General.
So being a charter, they're not going to,
They don't have to
they don't follow
abide by the laws
the
of,
statutory, right?
yeah, of the revised code.
You are right.
Interesting.
I was only
I'm
assuming.
not saying that's the end all be all answer, but that's, by Googling, that is the answer I will assume. But Keith
Right.
will know more.
Yes.
Maybe. I don't want to volunteer him for.
And then you don't want to be in a lawsuit where someone's like, well, you didn't read it 3
Right.
times, so.
Yeah.
Therefore, all ordinances for
Yep.
this 2 years are valid.
Right.
Better safe than sorry on that one, I think. Despite our clerk's struggles.
I'll still feel bad for Natalie, but she has to do it. And I won't feel bad if you have to do it.
Well, look, let me just say, I'm not going to call anybody out, but everybody that's sitting on the left-hand side at least once has declared, while I was clerk, to read all these resolutions in their entirety.
Okay, but
Multiple.
That was me, 100%.
I've also been up there and read stuff in its entirety. So
They're important. You did a good job.
yeah, it's always nice stuff.
Watching me butcher names live.
You've done a fantastic job.
All right.
At least you're not a crier. I was
I know,
tearing up
I had
at
to-
multiple ones, including the Pride Month resolution.
The Bridget one, I had
always moved.
to,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had to finish that one.
you did. Yeah, we both suffered for that one.
All right, anything else under SOPs for council? Then we will jump right on into,
This is
Q&A.
maybe sort of a SOP
All right.
council, maybe, again, but communication. The website is run by the city administration, not council.
correct.
But I'm wondering if they would consider putting council meetings on Facebook? Just the notices.
I mean, that,
Like the agenda, or just a reminder that a meeting's happening?
Agenda. Like,
Like posting what is posted via email.
correct.
Right. On the Facebook. I don't know what the rules are for that.
Well, it's not rules so much
right,
as.
and that's not
what it would be.
replacing anything, that's just an
Right.
additional
Correct.
method of communicating that out to everyone.
Yes, I'm not suggesting we do that instead of.
Oh, no.
That's
Right.
Yes, but let's be clear. I'm not suggesting we do that in place of.
Hold on, I'm putting it on the report. Susan,
You know, one of the things
Put it
that
on
we
X,
we
the
hear
everything, yeah.
over and over is people do not have that information. And I know that Facebook, like that should not be how people are getting most of their information. So I'm just trying to think of what are all the ways that we can kind of get more people knowing what's going on. Because I know just, you know, as I've been knocking doors these last few days, I tell everyone about Montgomery Road being repaved. And 70% of them, that was brand new information. And it's like, I've been talking about it for
years.
For years.
I knew about it in
And-
2021.
Yeah. So, and I don't, you know, 15 years ago, I wasn't watching city council meetings. I wouldn't have known. I was, you know, focused on keeping my children alive. You know, you've met them, 3 boys. Yeah. So I'm just trying to balance that. Get information out, but not flood information. What's the useful information? I don't know.
I don't think it's a bad idea to put it on the website or the city Facebook page. Which one? City website?
The city, I would say the city Facebook page, because it would already be.
Should already be on
the website, yeah.
I didn't know if you just want it like more prominently.
Yeah, although the city website,
I know it's a few
the
clicks.
font. Good night, the font is so small. I'm just saying, it's a DEI issue because I have my old eyes. And these old eyes would like a larger font.
I think you could set your Mac to do that.
No, girlfriend, when was the last time you were on their website?
No, I know. It's
Control Shift plus plus, or Apple Shift plus plus.
Look at that.
no, I know. It is
Look
small.
at that.
You're right.
What?
I'm not arguing with you.
What is it? Control?
I think it's Apple.
Command, maybe?
Yeah, Command
Command
Shift plus.
To zoom.
There also is a button at the bottom of the page that says accessibility, and there is a link you can click to takes you to your browser's accessibility information.
You just changed Susan's name.
What do we do?
So you changed your life just now with the.
Well,
It's still small, but
it's
that way
still
you can zoom.
under where it says accessibility.
So if you go to the bottom of the website, there's a tab that says accessibility. It just takes you to.
But
each
here's the
browser's-
thing, I don't need this with any other website.
Our
So
website is the text is
teeny,
incredibly
teeny,
small.
tiny
Yes, it
ant
is.
font.
That is, I agree.
How many miles did you walk to school uphill?
both ways.
Yeah.
Well, it was in New York, and it was chilly, but it was flat, and it was probably 0.6 miles.
Oh,
I
that's
did
not bad.
walk to and from.
You probably
as
walked in some
a-
snow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we didn't close school. And you just, you know, I was a kindergartner walking by myself, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I walked to school by myself as a kindergartner.
So, anyway, Q&A.
QA.
Yes.
All right, I had a question, which
All right.
probably I know that you cannot answer because it's not really about you, but I want to put this out there so that you guys are thinking about this too. With all the stuff going on at the federal level, we have federal funds that are supposed to come to us in the next 2 years. Namely CDBG funds for stuff like the Crown Avenue water line, street rehabilitation and improvements, $450,000 for that guy. Curb ramp and sidewalk improvements, $150,000. I want to get assurances from our representatives that that money is still allotted to us. And I think that I wonder if what you guys think might be the best way to make our voices heard as a municipality.
Probably a resolution.
Okay.
Well, we also have the, did you get the email from Sheriff Brown's office with the update?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like they are trying to communicate when they know, but that they don't, right now, they don't know.
Yeah. And I think it's just, for me, it's really, I mean, this whole situation is stressful, obviously, for everyone in every aspect. But for Norwood, too, we've just gotten a lot of good money that we worked very hard to get. And I mean, I'm not saying that we have to like make a resolution. I'm not even saying like make a resolution. I'm just saying.
Do you think it would be as simple as like putting together a letter that all of council signs off on that we send to the reps who
Possibly.
are working on this grant, just to ask for communication regarding it? What's the
Yeah.
current status? And then if we don't hear back, we can go from there. But I think that would be
Okay. I just,
the first step.
yeah, that would be good. Just directing it to our federal Congress critters. So it'd be Landsman, Marino, and Husted.
Yeah.
But I was going to, well, part of the reason I wanted to try to go around to these other cities is like see what they're hearing. And like if we can get like a letter of like the Southwest Ohio people being like, hey, don't mess with the money that you've promised us. You have a contractual obligation to give us these grants.
And they are the branch that controls the purse string.
Yes.
If anyone remembers high school government.
There's a whole video about it. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there on the record as something like that I am very concerned about. Especially since one of these specifically is about improving accessibility, which is apparently the devil now. So, just,
I am in full support of us putting a letter together.
okay.
And I think it
me too.
certainly
I'll-
couldn't hurt to invite other municipalities.
Am I-
to
Cool.
be-
I will
Maybe
reach, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, to Keith. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah.
The law department? Yeah.
I was going to reach out to Keith, and I was also going to reach out to Cincinnati, because I feel like since they have more, resources, this may be something that they are already doing or have thought. If I've thought about it, I feel like other people have thought about
Right.
it. So if they have something, if we could sign on, that'd be even easier. Obviously, I want to check with Keith before.
I wonder
do
if the
anything.
commissioners would be interested in corralling people together too.
Yeah. So,
Since I'm sure they have contacts with like every municipality.
yeah.
Sure.
Maybe Mystery House or Mystery.
I know a lot of people don't know. I mean, I'm not asking for a poor random bureaucratic guy to be like, yeah, you definitely have money.
Right.
I just want, I don't know, something on record to show that we are watching and we are concerned and it's not right what is happening.
And I
Right
think it's
now.
not too much to ask for an open line of communication regarding
Yeah.
funds that we've been promised.
Yeah, like,
Because if there are folks above us who already know that money isn't going to come, we need to make accommodations for
Yeah.
it, and the sooner the better.
yeah, and to be clear, it's not that I've heard that anything's been taken away, but the idea that things are being frozen, things that were promised are being frozen. If you start doing that, where do you stop? I mean,
Yeah.
we are a democratic city, to put it bluntly. Does that mean we're on the hit list? I don't know. Anyway, sorry to bring non-city current events up, but it's been,
It's related to the
is
city.
city.
yeah, it
business.
is city business, but it's just,
Because you're,
Well, I
concerned,
think
you're concerned about
regardless
funds.
Regardless of like the politics, the party politics of it all, I think grant money is up in the air across
Yeah.
the board.
Yes.
Yep.
It's a bipartisan issue to fix roads.
It is.
Yeah, you would
we
think.
all do
Yeah.
have to drive cars, yes. And so, yeah, I think with grant money's status in question, kind of universally, I think it's a fair question to ask, no matter what.
And I think this could also be some discussion during the next council meeting when the report from this committee is, when it is reported out, to ask Mr. Moore at the council meeting
Yeah.
Sure.
his
Okay.
opinion on this matter.
Yes.
The discussion during the acceptance of the committee report would be perfect timing for that,
Yeah.
for that discussion.
Excellent.
It was asked of Noah at the last council meeting, or maybe the finance committee meeting, if he had heard of any issues with grant funding, and that was like the day that the thing
Yeah.
was released. And something for anybody listening, or just before he said that, chief of the fire department came in and said one of his National Science Foundation grants had been zeroed out. And so these national politics are affecting our little small town.
Yeah.
Even though we have zero dog in the fight of national politics, we're trying to just run our city for Republicans and Democrats.
Yes.
Yeah, it still
Regardless.
impacts us.
Yeah. Has that been,
I haven't heard, but that was on day one.
I know, but I know NSF still has funding issues. I've heard from my colleagues about not getting paid their salary for the month.
And I mean, for anybody listening, $2 million for Doral Field is just hanging in the balance right now. We're waiting to see if the feds will release that money to the state to give to us.
Yep.
So I
And
mean,
for the
there's,
parks.
yeah.
For the
Yeah.
parks, parks was that
I think, was it
two,
Some,
yeah.
2.1?
2.3 or
Yeah.
something? Yeah.
Yeah.
but
So there are
there's,
millions of dollars.
are hanging in the
And I-
balance.
And I think, yeah, regardless of party, you want nice
dollars
roads.
that we've been promised.
Yes.
Yeah, millions of dollars that
Yeah.
they have a contractual obligation to
Right.
disperse in accordance with the contract. I
Yeah.
have other things I'd like to say now, but I'm not going to.
I think at the very least, requesting an open line of communication with as updated information as possible is completely reasonable.
And to
for
abide
us.
by their
And
promises.
to abide by their promises. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's reasonable to request, and I don't think we would be out of line by sending that communication.
I'll take the lead on asking Keith and then asking like City of Cincinnati, some of the council people there to, if they already have something.
I can reach out to St. Bernard and see if
That'd
they've
be
got
great.
anything up in the air too. I'm not sure where they stand with grants.
It might be something people are thinking about, but maybe if we're all kind of thinking along the same lines, we can
Right.
collaborate. Or,
There's always power in numbers.
yeah, have a standard draft that someone cooks up and then we all sign on as.
Yeah.
Yeah, just thinking.
That's a good idea, Emma.
Thank you. I want to take the feelings that I have and do something that is hopefully useful.
Just typing up my report.
Sorry.
Anything else under Q&A?
So I don't know if this is the best forum for it, but I know I've communicated with Sam about it, and I want to make sure that this is out on the open record. If you haven't heard, the health board upped the price of the fee to get a permit for a mobile food truck to $300. That, from my research so far, that is the highest in the state. It's double what Cincinnati charges, and it's triple what we used to charge. So for me, this is not acceptable. I think that is too big of a jump so fast. I don't know that there's a justification for us having the highest in the state. But I've asked Mr. Moore, and Mr. Moore is under the belief that we don't have very much authority over the health board. And so I'm bringing that up here because I want the public to know I care about it, even if our hands are tied.
Yeah.
But I also think there's ways that we do have like statutory authority over the board. I mean, we
And
voted
fees.
on ordinances that are on the,
Building department fees.
Can we go back to the
Can I share
process?
what the email was that
Sure.
the board of, so Jeff reached out to Pam Mullen, and she forwarded the question on to Roy Kolbinski, and he responded and said, "Hey Jeff, we are required to complete a cost analysis to determine the max allowable fee for each license category. The state provides us with the spreadsheet to use, and once completed, we submit our numbers to them for approval. Fee amounts go up or down each year based on how much time and money we spend on activities running the program, such as inspections, complaint investigations, etc. We notify all of our licensees of the proposed fees for the upcoming year, and we give them the opportunity to discuss the fees with us at a public hearing. No one showed up this year, and after the third reading, we went ahead and adopted the fees that were calculated during the cost analysis and approved by the state." So that was the process that they went through.
That's the process, that's what I stated.
So
Yes,
I left a message for him requesting the spreadsheet to
think
see
that would
what
be
the
really
process is. I was a little, okay, yeah, because I want to know what the process is. If it's as simple as they plugged in numbers and this is what it spits out, what were those numbers and why did it
Right.
go up so much? Yeah, so I feel like I'm still in investigation mode in figuring out what exactly
And my
is the
question
process.
was like things like how much money and time we spend, such as complaint investigations. Does that mean every time someone makes a complaint, the cost of the license goes up? Because how many
Right.
of those complaints are legitimate? How many of them are repeats about the same issue that only takes one time to address? Yeah, I would also really like to see the spreadsheet. It does, I understand that the Board of Health is a separate entity. It does feel strange that there is no communication, and maybe this is just a communication barrier.
Well, and that's one of the things, one of my frustrations is apparently there were these notices sent out. I don't get those. I don't have a
Don't
food
either.
truck.
Right.
I wish we'd been looped in. I don't know where we could have done that. If there's like a sunshine list for the Board of Health.
His email makes it sound like there was, that this was sent out and nobody responded.
Well, it was sent out to the food truck people, would be my assumption, but I don't know if
Says they
there's a.
notified all our licensees, so that
And there were no
just
public
people who
comments.
And
currently,
then
that
my
they had
other-
a public hearing and no one showed up. But yeah,
And then my other question would be, I'm pretty confident, but I do not know if all of those were sent out only in English and
That's a
if,
huge issue.
and I know that we talked about having notifications in Spanish for for the council piece.
Right.
But I don't know about the Board of Health's capacity to do that. It feels like that. We have under 20 food trucks. It's not a giant number. I feel like we could
That would take
do that.
one Spanish-speaking person who's willing to
Yeah.
translate one letter.
The Food Truck
There's-
Association is
Amy.
willing to help with that.
Yeah.
yes.
And I know the
Yeah.
current or former president, Amy.
She came to our small business.
She's a Spanish interpreter
Yeah.
for the courthouse.
For
So
a
I
living.
also know Amy.
As a side gig?
No, that's her full-time
That's her
job.
full-time job. Yeah,
Oh,
she used to work for
that's
women.
her full-time job, and then
Not to out Amy's, but she
She's-
used to work for Women Helping Women, so I knew her for that. Now
I
she's
believe
Spanish.
that I believe that the Food Truck Association is a volunteer role.
oh well, that would
Yeah.
kind of make sense now that I'm
But she's great, and I'm
She
sure
is
she would be more than
marvelous.
willing to interpret an English letter.
She has
too.
offered help with interpreting services for our conversation around the food truck. I mean, I'm sure for ongoing services, that would be something we would need to pay her for her time and labor for. But I think in order to be able to offer efficient communication to our residents, especially a
The food truck
community that is
community.
really directly impacted by this, it is important to meet them where they're at, and communicate in the language they speak.
Yes.
I don't think that's,
I think my question is, we have set the fee for the chicken ordinance, and that's the Board of Health, and we set that fee.
That's true.
that's interesting. That is.
Maybe because it was a
we-
council ordinance.
we
Because it
wrote
was
the
tied into an
ordinance. It's our ordinance, whereas this is not ours.
And we instructed
And we legislated the
that they would
chickens.
inspect the chicken coops.
Which I wonder if, but we are legislating that that they must be licensed.
That's already
But
there.
That would be good to get clarification
The law
on,
department might be the
That does
best.
Yeah.
seem like a lot of.
because since Board of Health has to do state regulations as well, if it's set by the state, not that the fees are set by the state, but if those things are controlled by the state, they may be able to set their own fees for those things if council is not requiring something in addition to what is.
I mean, from the email, it says that the state requires them to do the cost analysis and that determines the max allowable fee.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, maybe this is a conversation we need to have with Keith to just figure out like where that feels like a weird gray area that we did oversee the fees for chickens, but we don't oversee
Yeah.
the fees for this.
Well, and then like
I don't know the answer.
the weed ordinance, even they enforce that. Like,
Yes.
Right.
You're right. We're
This does seem
There's a lot
strange
of
that we
weird
have
crossover.
oversight on some things, but not oversight on other things.
So to clarify, the committee report with the food truck, that one had already been accepted, right? That was at the last meeting?
So what we did with food trucks is we sent a request to the planning commission to change the zoning.
The
Yes, and
committee
we did.
report about that was accepted already.
Yes.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
where I was kind of going with that was I would bring it back up under unfinished business
Okay.
Which
if you
we
want
planned to-
further.
We planned, well, okay, by we, I mean, I planned to at the last meeting, but because Emily was sick, I didn't want to schedule a meeting without her here and not have her be able. So my intention was to schedule a small business meeting at the last council meeting, but with Emily sick, I didn't want to schedule it without her and not have her be able to attend. But Jeff and I had already discussed potentially making that a small business committee topic about this fees.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to talk to Keith first and just see like,
Yeah.
how is this?
the state might trump us in that, I guess.
I do think it's best if we have it in the small business, we have that discussion in the small business committee, but to be legal, I wanted to bring it out here. Also to say, we can legislate our priorities. So for instance, I've heard the mayor say it's really important to get brick and mortars up and running on Main Street, but we're doing nothing to incentivize that. And so we could, as council, if the mayor doesn't want to do it, we could say no building department fees for residents in the strip of Norwood. If we wanted to incentivize it, there's ways that we could do that through legislation. And I think the same thing is true with food trucks. We could say we want to get, there was 40 restaurants closed in the greater Cincinnati
Oh,
area
yeah.
last year.
Gosh.
And so it seems to me there's reason for giving less burden on small businesses, and yet the
So maybe-
health board is doing the opposite.
Maybe there's just another fee that they have that we could make up for that
Or
increase.
at least getting some clarity about what we are allowed or not able to do would be awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I don't want
that
to make a proclamation that is completely unenforceable.
Right.
Yeah,
Worst
it's
case,
just
we could
Yeah.
cut their budget. We as council could, I see your expression, but that's our job. If everybody's standing in the way of us doing our job, the mayor has said we're the most engaged council he's seen in a while. And I think it's because we're asking questions and we're trying to get things done that have been undone for a while. But we could play the game where we cut their budget, however many food trucks there are. Say there's 20 food trucks, we could cut their budget 300 times 20 and tell them to come up with that money on their own. I think that's a dirty way to play politics, but yet that's one play that we have if we would talk about it in a public meeting like this.
I think I would like to start with the conversation.
Yeah.
But I think small business should tackle that and we should get the ball rolling on just having a conversation with Keith about where the legalities lie of that. I don't want to overstep, but I think it's important that we be included, especially just considering the amount of time and effort that we've put into food trucks. It does
Yeah.
seem strange to just be like completely left out of that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
was intentional.
And a raise of that degree of any fee would be concerning to me.
Doubling it or
Yeah.
tripling it.
Tripling a
tripling
fee
it,
of
yeah.
any kind, if it isn't from like $1 to $3,
Right.
would
It's
be.
concerning. And I think especially at a time when food service is hurting as much as it is right
Exactly.
now.
Yeah.
So-
And I'm not opposed to having, we raised the building department fees. They hadn't been raised in quite a while. But considering that this is not reflective of Hamilton County or
Right.
Cincinnati or Silverton, it seems.
But we raise them in a responsible way.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
300%.
Right.
Yes.
Like,
Again, sorry.
yes.
I think before we can make any kind of judgment calls, we need to
Yeah.
get
Get
information
information.
gathering.
Yeah.
And so, Susan, if you're willing to reach out and you've already requested the spreadsheet,
I
I
like
think
the
we
message
start
form.
there. I'm happy to reach out to Keith
Yes, yesterday.
this week. I'm happy to reach out to Keith and see kind of how we establish what things we have oversight on and what things we don't that the Board of Health enforces. And I think once we have that information, we can have a meeting and review all of it and see where we go from there.
Have you reached out to a member from their board, inviting them to the meeting?
The Board of
To the
Health?
committee meeting for the discussion on that topic?
No, but we don't have one scheduled yet, but I will as soon as we do. That's a good idea.
And do we have contact numbers for food truck vendors that we
Yeah.
can?
Yes, we definitely do.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's worked in the food industry for any amount of time knows that your margins are so thin. And I think there's this impression that like food sells, everybody needs food, and food's so expensive now, but it's also expensive to purchase. The ingredients and labor is expensive. And I have spent most of my career in the food service industry, and the margins are slim. The margins are slim on a great day. Yep.
What was it, the cost of iceberg lettuce? Was that you and I talking about that?
Yeah, my last chef at the last restaurant that I worked at, a case of iceberg lettuce was something like $84 for mostly water.
It's just, and it's only gonna
Fancy
get worse. It was only gonna get worse.
Or in perspective, AJ's Cheesesteak opened up a brick and mortar outside of Norwood. On his first day, whenever he was inside the building working, members from their city council or their community council showed up at his place and said, "How can we help?" And that is something that Norwood doesn't do. I don't do it. I'm not pointing any fingers, but we say that we want to revitalize Main Street, but yet there's nothing the city is doing to help.
I don't think that's true at all, because the day that we were opening the cidery, you showed up and said, "What can I do?" And you assembled a plant stand that I was very confused by.
I do that as a citizen.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that
I go to
think
places.
you do that. And
Well, I was gonna say, I
don't
go to
discredit yourself. Is
businesses.
all I'm saying.
Well,
I
like-
think that
Yeah.
I think we all make a point to like patronize those businesses too. Like I went to Fusible when they opened, the cidery, Piata. I love eating out. So
Maybe Bob.
But I'm talking about helping a business get started.
Right.
Their council says, "Hey, we're so interested or invested in this. We're going to go do something," rather than say, "Well, you come to us and we'll talk to somebody in council or in city hall and make sure that process goes smoothly for you."
I mean, I think we also, there are so many gaps of information that we have. And I think part of that is, like I think I saw on your Facebook about the business moving from a one space in Norwood to a bigger space in Norwood. And it was on the Business Journal. I get the
Yeah.
Business Journal. I try to read it every day. I don't. But I didn't know about that. If I had, I saw someone from the chamber was like, "Yeah, there was a ribbon cutting." How is it that we don't know? I don't know. And I try to stay pretty on top of things. How is it I didn't know about that? And
Right.
how can we help us figure out where that information is? That's not blaming fingers. That is, I don't think that company, that was their responsibility to send Susan an email, but where are those ways that we can be more connected?
And keeping in mind that like all of us also have full-time jobs, and we're all, and we want to make the best use of our time. And the best use of my time, I would rather be out helping people hands-on. But it seems like in order to be aware of what's going on, you need to spend half of your time online, looking into it, being on, you know what I
You're
mean?
not wrong. Yeah.
And so I think there is a big disconnect
City Council, they
communication-wise.
do get staff members.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, Cincinnati City Council has staff.
They have
Just also for the record.
full-time staff
Which I-
member.
Sometimes I just dream about what we could get done if we had staff members.
When I had a friend on Cincinnati City Council texting him to get plans to get coffee, I would get a text back from his staff saying, he's got an opening in his schedule from this time to this time. And I thought, oh my God.
Yeah. But I do get your point. We should, I
Yes.
wish we could do more, and we should try to do more.
Yes.
Well, part of my question is how can we?
Yeah.
What are the ways that we can? And I have fantasies about what we could potentially do in small business, especially with Montgomery Road being done. Like, we need to hit and get businesses in those buildings. And
Well, and I think that's a chicken and an egg situation.
Right.
I think in order for Montgomery Road to be successful, businesses need to be there, but I think for businesses to be there, Montgomery Road needs to be successful.
Right.
And I know that the beautification and the repaving is gonna make a big impact because right now it's a lack of parking, it's a lack of street safety, it's a lack of pedestrian safety that keeps people away. I think something that small business committee could consider doing, and if we all feel like this is manageable, I think if we can commit to a once monthly meeting, we can pick a small business a month. Maybe we rotate and like each of us nominates a small business in Norwood and we make it a point to like feature them at a council meeting and give them a shout out, and we can go visit and blast them on our social media and say like, look, I went to J&W and look at this sandwich I got. It's the best sandwich I've had. I think when we look at what like,
We'll start influencing.
I hate to say
Finally.
that, but as a person who has done that in my life,
Yes.
I have been like,
Well, it'd be good if we
small
could get
businesses
the,
have been very grateful
Yeah.
to just have their name out there and have, and I mean, that's not legislation, but that is, people watch city council meetings, people pay attention to what people on city council are doing. And I think that's one way that we can at least bring attention to small businesses that could use a boost right now.
or someone from the chamber could just like occasionally come to a small business meeting, maybe. And like say what new businesses have opened.
Yeah, that
they're
was
aware.
something, didn't we?
I'm sure we've discussed.
I'm sure we've
I'm
discussed
sure
that.
it's been brought up at some point.
Because I know Alexis and I have been trying to go to more of the chamber meetings. You and I went to
Me and
one.
Emily went.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we went to State of the City.
yeah. And I think that there could be some more collaborative stuff that we could potentially do with them.
Because I feel like they do have a good thumb on the pulse, is my
Yeah.
understanding.
And it feels like they're also getting more,
Engagement.
yeah, I feel like they're getting more traction too.
Let's
So
make this a
there's-
project for small business.
Yes.
That sounds great.
Are all four of you
Thanks
on
for
it?
taking that on.
Yes.
By the only non-small business.
Yeah.
Thank you for including.
Yeah.
We'll invite you to all the good food places.
So I'm assuming at the next council meeting, someone will make that motion
Yeah,
under new
we'll make
business
a
to place that matter into the, because you
That's great.
cannot at this meeting.
Right. We will not be scheduling or putting anything in count. I'm suggesting that we all consider at the next council meeting. That's all I have, everyone. I'm very tired tonight. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
Understandable. I've just been, I don't know, I've been
My
feeling
allergies
like
are
vaguely
kicking my
sick
butt.
for an entire week. So like,
It's this
I feel like that's
weather.
just, I'm gonna have to get used to that feeling when having a child now, where I'm just gonna be like almost sick every day.
Sick
I
forever.
also think the
So,
next 5 days have a
yes.
high of 57, 39,
Yes.
42,
Yeah.
Yeah.
31. It's got my allergies. are
Sinuses.
kicking
My sinuses are not happy right now, so.
It's not a fun time.
Nice.
That's a good word.
I urge us a chair.
That's why you're president, Jen.
Right.
That's what people.
And there's nobody to, wrong meeting.
Now we're getting punchy. Are we wrapping
All
up?
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else under Q&A? All right.
Can I just say, this is a statement, I like these, and
I
I'm
like them a
appreciative
lot.
that we have this kind of,
Yes.
That was part of the reason I brought it back.
Yes.
Not
and so
to,
this is
Yeah.
big
not to
kudos
take a
you.
historical stance, but I do remember when council of committee of the whole meetings were standing.
Yeah.
They
I think
were
makes
standing
sense.
meetings.
Just to have a time
A value add.
to
for
talk
sure.
more freely and not so,
Yeah,
And I don't have to sit here and say, Mrs. Frandon, Mr.
Yeah.
Gertz.
right.
yeah.
Miss-"
Oh, the
benefit of
transition
ins-
back and forth is hard.
Institutional knowledge.
Yes.
Yes.
Missed it years.
Almost like we should listen to people that know what they're doing.
Emily's upset. We should get.
We're going to have all three readings. All right, anything else? If not, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we'll see you all on February the 11th in the next council meeting. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.